You know, probably a lot of us, maybe you've glanced in the mirror recently and thought, wait a minute, is that another gray hair?
Mm-hmm.
And well, going gray is just, part of life, part of the journey. But it does seem like for some people, those silver strands are showing up a bit ahead of schedule these days. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And what's really interesting looking at the information we have is while that eventual color shift is totally natural, as our bodies make less melanin,
Right.
the actual timing of when that kicks off seems to be influenced by, well, quite a few interconnected things.
Exactly. So, what we really wanted to dive into today is understanding what might be contributing to this, premature graying that maybe you're noticing.
Yeah,
And maybe more importantly, we wanted to look at some natural, sort of holistic approaches that our sources highlight, actual practical things you could try if this is something you're thinking about.
that's right. And this isn't really about like quick fixes or just covering it up, is it? The idea here is to look at the underlying reasons why it might be happening early and explore strategies that support overall hair health, which, could potentially slow things down or maybe even help address it in some cases.
Okay, so the material we've been digging through points to some key areas, things that can play a role in those early silver hairs you might be seeing.
Mm,
We're talking about like daily food habits, lifestyle choices in general, emotional well-being, and definitely stress levels. That seems huge.
yeah, stress comes up a lot.
And plus, it touches on just how you're caring for your hair and scalp day to day, so that's quite a bit to unpack. Where do you think we should start this deep dive?
Well, let's kick off with something that sounds pretty appealing, actually, especially if things are warming up where you are.
Yeah.
A hibiscus yogurt pack.
Ooh, hibiscus yogurt. That does sound refreshing. Our sources call it a fantastic summer remedy. So tell us what exactly goes into making this.
It's actually surprisingly simple. You just need about 4 tablespoons of plain yogurt and then a quarter cup of hibiscus powder. The main thing is just mixing them really well, till you get a nice smooth paste.
Yogurt and hibiscus powder sounds easy enough for pretty much anyone to whip up at home. And how do you, actually use this vibrant mix once it's ready?
So you just apply it directly to your hair and your scalp. Make sure you cover everything.
Right.
Then you let it sit there and do its thing for around 30 to 40 minutes. Then just rinse it out with lukewarm water.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a nice little self-care moment, really.
30 to 40 minutes. Yeah, a perfect excuse to maybe put your feet up for a bit. So why is this specific combination thought to be so helpful, for preventing early graying?
Well, the info we have suggests a couple of main benefits. First, it's described as being, cooling and nourishing for the hair, which is
Yeah.
always good, right?
Yeah.
Especially in warmer weather.
Hmm.
But more specifically to our topic, it's believed this pack can help in preventing that early graying. Hibiscus, interestingly, has antioxidants, and these compounds could potentially help protect the pigment-producing cells, the melanocytes, in your hair follicles from damage. And the yogurt, well, it's moisturizing, helps create a healthy scalp environment.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, a calm, well-nourished scalp probably sets the stage for healthier hair overall, color included. Right.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this lovely cooling hair mask in our toolkit. What's the next natural approach our sources point us towards?
Okay, next up, we move to a real staple in traditional hair care, the combination of Bhringraj and Amla oil.
Ah, Bhringraj oil. Yeah, you hear that name quite a bit when people talk hair health. What makes it so noteworthy?
So according to the information we've gathered, Bhringraj oil itself is rich in beneficial herbs. Haritaki and Jetamansi were specifically mentioned.
Okay.
And traditionally, these herbs have been used because they're thought to help maintain the hair's natural shade and, well, slow down the graying process.
So it's more than just like old wives' tales then. There's a long history suggesting these benefits.
Seems so, yeah.
And how would someone actually go about using these oils if they wanted to give this a try?
The suggestion is to make a mixture of the Bhringraj oil and Amla oil,
Right.
and then gently massage that into your scalp before you go to bed. The source recommends leaving it on overnight, really let it soak in,
Okay.
and then just rinse it out in the morning.
An overnight treatment. Yeah, that sounds like it would really allow the oils to penetrate and do their work. What sort of specific benefits might someone expect from using this oil combo regularly?
Well, the info outlines several things.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond just potentially slowing down graying and keeping your natural color,
Mm-hmm.
this combination is said to deeply condition the hair. So that can improve texture, make it look healthier.
Nice.
It's also thought to boost shine and encourage hair growth things I think a lot of people are looking for.
Definitely.
And quite interestingly, it mentions amla, specifically, might help purify the blood and strengthen the hair roots, which kind of ties back to those internal factors we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's fascinating how these natural remedies often seem to offer multiple benefits, tackling hair health from different angles topically and, well, maybe internally too. Okay, so we've nourished the hair from the outside. Now let's explore something you can take internally. Ashwagandha tea. That sounds quite intriguing.
Ashwagandha really is a remarkable herb. It's often called an adaptogen, and the info we have rightly calls it a powerhouse.
Uh-huh.
One of the key reasons it's highlighted here is because it contains an amino acid called tyrosine.
Tyrosine. Okay, what role does that play when we're talking about hair color?
Well, tyrosine is actually a precursor to melanin, which,
Oh.
as we know, is the pigment that gives our hair its color.
Uh-huh.
So the thinking is, by consuming ashwagandha, which has tyrosine, you might be indirectly supporting melanin production right there in your hair follicles, kind of like giving them the building blocks they need.
Ah, okay, that direct link to pigment production makes a lot of sense. But the source also points out another really significant benefit of ashwagandha, something to do with how we handle stress.
Yes, and this is so important because, like we touched on, stress is a major factor that can contribute to premature graying.
Right.
Ashwagandha is pretty well known for its ability to help regulate cortisol levels, our body's main stress hormone.
Mm-hmm.
So by helping keep cortisol in check, it could potentially prevent some of that stress-related damage and hair loss, which often seems to go hand in hand with premature graying.
So it's kind of tackling the potential graying issue from both angles,
Yeah.
pigment support and stress management. That's quite
It
comprehensive.
seems that way, yeah.
How do you actually prepare this ashwagandha tea if someone wanted to try it? Is it complicated?
No, the recipe is quite straightforward. You just take 1 teaspoon of ashwagandha powder, or you can use a few dried ashwagandha roots,
Okay.
and boil them in water. Then you turn down the heat and let it simmer with the lid on for about 10 to 15 minutes.
Wow.
After that, you just strain the tea. And according to our source, you can add a little honey and lemon to make it taste nicer if you like.
That sounds like a really calming ritual in itself, actually.
Yeah.
And the information we have even suggests a little snack to go with it.
It does. It recommends pairing the tea with some roasted macana. They're also called foxnuts or lotus seeds.
Oh, yeah.
Calls it a super nourishing combo, which really emphasizes that holistic view, doesn't it?
Mm.
Combining a beneficial drink with a healthy snack.
I like that. Yeah, it reinforces the idea that it's not just about finding like one magic bullet, but about weaving these practices into a generally healthier way of living.
Exactly.
Okay, now shifting from internal remedies to more physical practices. Our sources talk about yoga, specifically something called inversion asanas. I'm really curious about this connection. How does yoga tie into hair color?
Right. Well, this is where we look at how improving blood circulation can potentially have a positive impact on hair health.
Okay.
The information we have explains that yoga particularly poses where your head is lower than your heart. These are the inversion asanas.
Uh-huh.
They can be a real game changer because they help boost blood flow right to the scalp.
Okay, so literally turning things upside down can actually be good for your hair. What specific yoga poses are highlighted in our sources?
The sources list several key ones. Viparita Karani, which is often called legs up the wall pose, quite gentle.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Sarvangasana, or shoulder stand. Hastapadasana, which is standing forward bend.
Yeah.
Paschimottanasana, or seated forward bend. And Adho Mukha Svanasana, the classic downward facing dog.
Right, down dog. That's a good variety, yeah. Some gentler, some that need a bit more strength and flexibility, like shoulder stands.
True.
So how exactly do these inversions help, potentially, in reducing premature graying? What's the mechanism?
The main idea here is pretty straightforward, that increased blood flow to your head and scalp helps deliver essential nutrients and oxygen right to the hair follicles.
Makes sense.
So this enhanced circulation can support their healthy function, keep them nourished, and maybe, in turn, reduce the likelihood of premature graying. It's basically about making sure the hair roots are getting everything they need to thrive.
That makes perfect physiological sense. Yeah, good circulation is vital for, well, everything in our body, so it's logical it would benefit our hair's health and color too. Okay, so we've explored topical treatments, internal remedies like the tea, and physical practices with yoga. The last of the big areas mentioned in our sources focuses on something really fundamental, our diet.
Absolutely. Yeah, the information we've been reviewing really emphasizes that what we eat has a, well, profound effect on our overall health. And deficiencies in certain nutrients can definitely be a contributing factor to premature graying.
Which specific nutrients are flagged as being particularly important here for maintaining our natural hair color?
Our sources specifically point to potential deficiencies in iron, copper, vitamin B, iodine, and also omega-3 fatty acids. These are all really crucial for various processes in the body, including the health and pigmentation of our hair.
So if you're noticing those early gray hairs, it might genuinely be worth taking a closer look at what's on your plate, right?
Definitely worth considering.
What kind of foods should someone look at incorporating to address these potential nutrient gaps? Let's start with copper. What can we find that?
Okay, so to boost copper intake, the info we have recommends foods like cashews, potatoes, chickpeas, almonds, and mushrooms. Pretty common stuff, really.
Great. Yeah, some easily accessible options there. What about good sources of vitamin B that our sources highlight?
For vitamin D, the suggestions include incorporating things like curd, which is like a type of yogurt, paneer, which is an Indian cheese, bananas, and carrots into your diet. Again, a nice mix of everyday foods.
hmm And finally, what about some good sources for omega-3 fatty acids and also zinc? What's mentioned there?
For omega-3s and zinc, the recommendations include walnuts, flax seeds, spinach, broccoli, and cauliflower. Right. So that gives you a mix of nuts, seeds, and green veggies to choose from.
It's a really important reminder, isn't it, that a well-balanced diet truly underpins so much of our health, including the health and vibrancy of our hair.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, we've gone through those 5 specific approaches outlined in the sources, but there's also a kind of broader theme that keeps cropping up, something about our overall holistic well-being.
Yes, and this is a really crucial takeaway, I think. The information we've looked at really emphasizes that while these specific remedies can be incredibly helpful,
Yeah.
achieving true, lasting results really does start from within. It's not just about what you put on your hair or what you eat, but also about your general state of being, your mental and emotional health.
And it specifically mentions managing stress, there it is again, and letting go of negativity. It's almost like our internal emotional landscape has a direct reflection on our outside appearance.
That's precisely the connection being made. As we've discussed, chronic stress can directly impact those cortisol levels, which can then affect hair health.
Right.
And similarly, holding on to negative emotions might contribute to overall imbalances in the body. So the sources encourage practices that promote emotional well-being as like an integral part of any strategy for addressing premature graying.
It even includes some really lovely, almost philosophical advice, doesn't it? Smile more, love more, and embrace yourself. It kind of shifts the focus from just trying to fix a cosmetic issue to cultivating a broader sense of self-acceptance.
Exactly. Yeah, it touches on this idea of gray hairs potentially being silver threads of wisdom, suggesting a different perspective. It advises against being, overly critical of yourself or striving for some unattainable ideal of perfection. It feels like it's as much about self-compassion as it is about hair care.
But it does circle back to our main topic, clarifying that if it's the premature aspect of graying that you're concerned about, then making these kinds of lifestyle adjustments is definitely something worth considering. It's about taking action if you feel like the graying is happening, significantly earlier than you'd expect or want.
Precisely. It's about empowering yourself with knowledge and taking proactive steps if you choose to. The sources sort of conclude by summarizing the key actions. Eat well, live right, practice those asanas regularly, and, very importantly, practice self-love. A really comprehensive message about taking care of your whole self.
So you've really given us a fantastic and thorough overview of these natural and holistic ways to approach premature gray hair, all drawn straight from the information we've been exploring. It's really empowering, I think, to know there are tangible steps you can take that go beyond just reaching for a bottle of dye.
Absolutely. Yeah, the aim here was really just to equip listeners with valuable insights and practical tools they can integrate into their lives if they're concerned about those early silver strands. It's about understanding the different factors at play and adopting a holistic approach that truly nourishes your hair from the inside out. So as everyone listening processes all of this information, maybe just take a moment to reflect on your own relationship with aging and with self-acceptance. What would it feel like to truly embrace the natural progression of your life while also empowering yourself with knowledge about your own well-being?